Hello, this episode we are in chapter 22 in the book of Proverbs. Approximately 1959, my dad took an introduction to speech class in high school, sophomore year. And this class was part of the core curriculum that everyone had to take their sophomore year. So it was a large class numerically. And he gave a speech in the class over a topic that was actually rarely, as in his words, rarely talked about in the media at the time. And it existed, but it was not part of the national discussion. And he happened across a few articles about this issue and did discover this more rare topic and was convinced that it would make a very compelling speech for his class. So he researched more and prepared his speech, and the day came for him to deliver it in front of class. And so when it was his turn, he stood up, walked to the front to give his speech. And he was sure of his work. He had found concrete evidence to support his thesis, and he had all of his facts there to present his case for his speech. However, he was shocked by the reaction of the majority of his classmates. Now, most of the time, when you are in a class setting such as that, your peers are either disinterested and bored, and maybe not bored with you, but bored with the class in general because they don't really want to be there, but they have to be there. And they are only there because they have to be. Or your peers are passively interested. They're maybe looking at you, but their mind's elsewhere because they're maybe going to be the one that's up next and they have to give their presentation. But to his speech, they did neither of these two things. So he had given his introduction and he told then his thesis statement. Now, besides the teacher and just a very, very few students in the room, virtually everyone in the classroom reacted like he had just told the funniest joke in the entire world. They doubled over. They were laughing loudly, beating on their desks in their reaction, just finding it so hilarious. Now, he was very taken back and he was very confused. I mean, they were practically rolling in the floors like he had said the dumbest thing in the world. So he rechecked his introductory notes and thinking, what in the world did I say that was funny? All that he had done was relate a true story he had found in an article about a family that had been killed in a tragic car accident. I mean, there's nothing funny about that. I mean, they had been broadsided at a traffic light by a drunk driver. That's not funny. That's not funny at all. But they had started laughing when he had made his thesis statement, so he rechecked that, and his thesis statement was the following. These deaths were a result of driving under the influence of alcohol. And at that, his peer group started laughing hysterically. Now, I am told that the laws concerning drunk driving at that time were not so precise as we have today. Maybe because it was considered self-evident responsibility. Don't behave recklessly in a way that could endanger you or others. But among the youths of that, the sex, drugs, and rock and roll coming on then in 59, maybe that responsibility was not so self-evident to the upcoming generation then. So Proverbs 22, verse 3 is where we're going to begin today. And it says the following. A prudent or wise man foresees evil and hides himself. And then it goes on, but the simple pass on and are punished. And this same Proverbs is repeated virtually word for word in chapter 27, verse 12. It says, a prudent man foreseeth evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. Almost exactly the exact same verse. And, excuse me, the pulpit commentary says the following. Actually, no, let's wait for that. So this episode's topic, we're going to really talk about foresight. Now, foresight is defined as the following: the ability to predict or the action of predicting what will happen or be needed in the future. Used in a sentence, he had the foresight to check that his escape route was clear. Synonyms include planning, far-sightedness, vision, anticipation, prudence, care, caution, precaution, readiness, or preparedness. Now, this verse describes that foresight is an attribute of wisdom. In Bible lingo, the fruit of the Spirit is wisdom in a very broad sense. It's a the fruit of the Spirit is a manifestation of the Spirit of wisdom. We won't get too deep into that. Now, foresight is a cross-cultural phenomenon. There's a Spanish proverb that says this: that which the fool does in the end, the wise does at the beginning. And then there's a Cornish proverb that says this: he who will not be ruled by the rudder, in other words, heed a small correction, must be ruled by the rock, where it inevitably will crash down on him and destroy it. So, now let's read the pulpit commentary that relates it so simply. I'm just going to read it. It says, number 1, where it says the prudent or wise man foresees evil and hides himself. It says this about that section: the subject, or the first clause in this, is singular in number. For a really prudent man is a comparatively rare being. And then the second clause is plural, but the simple pass on and are punished. Now, this teaches us that there are many people found for one prudent or wise person. In other words, this verse is highlighting the difference between the many and the few. Highlighting the difference between the many and the few. And that's what the pulpit commentary says. So, those who were doubled over in laughter did not foresee the evil that was being spoken of. Versus those who were not laughing, who saw the potential evil there. Just like the spies that Moses sent out into the land, Caleb and Joshua versus all of the others, the narrow gate versus the broad gate, the 3 Hebrew children versus everyone else that went to Babylon, the whole world versus the 8 people that got in the ark. Noah had foresight. It says in Hebrews 11:7, it says, by faith Noah, being warned of God of things not yet seen, foresight, moved with fear, prepared an ark to the saving of his household, by the which he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness which is by faith. Now, here is the principle of this verse and all these other examples. Foresight is what divides the many from the few. It's the I'm going to study now versus I foresee there is a test I need to pass. It is I'm not going to mouth off now. I'm going to, as we've covered in a previous episode, I'm going to foresee the evil and keep my mouth shut. It's I'm not going to spend my time on frivolous endeavors. I'm going to develop my talents and abilities because I foresee the time in which I will need to support myself and I want independence. Parents discipline their children because they foresee the child's adulthood. I'm not going to partake of this or that or whatever that my peer group is, because I foresee that it does not please God. I am going to live my life according to His will and His commandments because I foresee that I will answer to the Almighty Creator of heaven and earth on Judgment Day for every single thing I do and say. So, the few versus the many. Now, the opinion of your peer group, whatever peer group that is, old, young, doesn't matter. Whatever your peer group is, could be the culture around you, which includes all generations. The culture around you. It is fluid. It changes on innumerable factors. You cannot live your life or guide your heart, as we've talked about in a previous episode. You cannot live your morality based upon and according to the public opinion, because that changes. Much like it has changed regarding drinking and driving, of all things. Now, I have to say, growing up in a generation that saw all sorts of commercials about don't drink and drive, it's incomprehensible to me. But it existed and it happened. There was a generation that arose, unlike the one before it, and unlike the one after it, that decided that that was okay behavior. It was safe or cool to do that. Or whatever the word was back in 59. So tell me, did the fact that that peer group that my father was a part of, and that generation at large, that they decided that that was okay, it was safe and cool, or whatever word that was the thing, did that make it safe? Did that make it okay? Did that make it responsible? Did the fact that that group ruled that, that behavior was acceptable make it safe? Did the fact that that peer group, which my father was telling me about, that the sex, drugs, and alcohol lifestyle was cool, did that make it not a destructive lifestyle? Proverbs 14:16 says the following: a wise man feareth and departeth from evil, but a fool rages and is confident. Beating on the table, so confident. Let me finish the story that my dad told me about his intro to speech class in 1959. There were those in that class, actual individuals that were doubled over in laughter, that did not live to see their high school graduation. That instead of being alive and having a full life from approximately 1960 until now, they have been dead from 1960 until now because of drinking and driving or being in the car with those who did. It's been a while since 1960. It's been a while. It's a long time to be dead. That's a lot of life missed. There were those in that class that he spoke of those doubled over laughing and so confident, that instead of being alive and full of life since approximately 1960 until now, have been completely, irreversibly paralyzed from 1960 until now because of drinking and driving or being in the car with those who did. That's a lot of, it's been a long time since 1960. It's a long time to be paralyzed. Did public opinion or groupthink come into the morgue and give them their life back? Did public opinion or groupthink come into the hospital and give them an undamaged body back? I grant you these are extreme examples. I grant you that. But they are extremely true. Because it's applicable everywhere. People waste a lot of time doing worthless things because those worthless things are popular. And when these people run into life obstacles and realize they should have applied themselves, popular opinion and thought is not going to come back and give them that wasted time of their life back. People do a lot of things that they know or once knew, that's a whole nother topic, was wrong simply because they're not strong enough to be different. People do a lot of things that they know or once knew was wrong because they're not strong enough to be different. Now, the word says the Lord's people are to be called peculiar, as in separated or called out. And that's hard when you're standing in front of the class of life, like wisdom standing at the gate, as we've talked about in previous episodes, calling unto the men of the city, trying to give them words of life, and they mock you, double over laughing. When you try to give them salt, something that has true worth and value, as we've talked about in previous episodes, and they don't take it and don't value it as that which has the most worth. And you're confused and you're like, what did I say? That was funny. I was being very serious about the foresight that I see coming down the road of things that I'm trying to warn you about. Why don't they see the danger? Now, it is natural and spiritual insanity to laugh at real danger. And the people who laugh at real spiritual or even natural danger are those who have a false sense of security. A very false sense of security, because the Bible says their consciousness has been seared, as it were. It says like by a hot iron. And the searing of that conscience can happen because of a continual rebellion or strong drink, so to speak, like the searing effects of drinking in that peer pressure, as it were, or public opinion. But on Judgment Day, when you're standing before God, the law office of groupthink and public opinion is not going to come in and represent your case. However, those who had the foresight to hire a Jewish carpenter as their lawyer and followed his instructions, there'll be those will be just fine. So I've spent my time presenting the topic, and I could spend twice as long presenting the solution, but again, I like the in a nutshell type of answers, especially for this short format. If you're feeling not included or left out, different or rejected, it's okay. It's okay. You're in good company. You're in good company. The key is to keep your eyes focused on the big picture. Keep your foresight. Use it. Focus on it. And focus on the finish line. Focus on the finish line. Because foresight is the difference between the few and the many. Lord, help us to apply this to our lives. Until next time, guys. Bye-bye.